everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Yes, we're back with another episode of So No One Told You. I know we've had a bit of a break, but I promise we will be continuing it because, as I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of things that you didn't know about university. Which brings us into, have you ever been given the wrong advice, been told to expect one thing and then experienced something completely different? Well, we're here to address this. Each episode, we're going to bring on a guest speaker, whether they're a current student or alumni from Brunel, to discuss some assumptions we had or things we were told to expect and how this was different to what we actually went through. But don't worry, we're not going to end it there. We're not going to leave you with all this confusion or uncertainty. We're going to be offering some personal tips and advice to you on how you can learn from our mistakes and our experiences. So, to kick things off, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for today, who some of you might recognize because he's been on quite a few podcasts under Pick Up the Mic. So, hi Morgan, how you doing?
Hey Jeffrey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fabulous, man. Fabulous. I'm so glad to be back on Pick Up the Mic. Obviously I'm on Two Maesters, but the episode I did Pick Up the Mic, oh God, almost 2 years ago. Yeah. Loved it. So empowering. And I think it's what, if I was a student, I'd be wanting to be listening to this stuff because boy, is it emotional roller coaster being a student. Having some sort of advice network or guidance is so great in those hard times.
Yeah, definitely. And, that nicely leads us on to actually what this episode is all about because...
what coincidence.
What a coincidence. Because, as you can probably tell from the title, we're going to be discussing the whole idea of making friends at university. So we're going to kick things off with our first assumption. Assumption, reality, and lessons learned. And this first one we've got for the assumptions is it's easy to make friends at uni, or whether this is, you're a master's student and you're coming back to university, whether you're going straight from graduating to a master's, or whether this is your, first time at university, you're going straight into your undergraduate. Morgan, did you feel like that was the case with you? That it was like you had an assumption or an expectation that, like secondary school or even like university before, it's so easy to just make friends?
I think I definitely had an assumption. I mean, you pick up any university prospectus, they show all these cool kids in denim jackets sitting on the green area at uni, like they're best friends forever, but they're just all actors or work in the marketing department. Yeah, I think that's a misconception. And I think it depends, what level of study you're doing. If you're doing undergrad, then maybe it might be easier than, say, postgrad, like master's students. It can be quite isolating because you're literally only there for 1 year. It's very intense. You might not actually have the time to make friends. And, PhD students, well, you're there for longer, but it's very mentally straining doing a PhD as well as a master's degree. So you might really struggle with your mental health and be able to make friends at uni. I think speaking about my own experience, I've only ever done undergrad. I think it was easy to make acquaintances. Like, I'm quite an extroverted and chatty guy. My issue is I just don't shut up. But in my first few weeks and months at uni, I met lots of people and I was a bit of a social butterfly. I tried out different societies. I hung out with lots of people in Kilmorey Hall. Shout out to Big Kilmorey Hall, anyone who lives there, if it's not been knocked down already. But I say acquaintances because there's some people I met who actually genuinely were my friends throughout uni, like maybe one or two, but my main friends I made in towards the end of the second year at uni, to be honest, and then during my Sandridge placement and then my final year. First year, I think was actually a struggle to have some deep, meaningful relationships. I maybe had I would say maybe two friends, people I consider friends, or people I was talking to still after uni. But otherwise, these acquaintances, I don't know, just didn't feel like deep relationships. And in some cases, they were kind of toxic. What about you, Jeffrey? Do you think it's easy to make friends at uni?
I would say I think, like we said, I think that's true. That there's, it's easier to make acquaintances than it is to make, I guess, true friends at uni.
Mm,
Um, I think, both. Well, I think from on two perspectives. So I think, for me, for when I was going in for like into my undergraduate, I think there were at least maybe three other people from my sixth form that were
right.
going to Brunel, or went to my secondary school and were going to Brunel. Um, so I was like, okay, cool. I know at least three people. Or like I'll see them around. Like, it's cool. Um, but yeah, I think like you said, you sort of like go through the first couple of weeks, and you're sort of like, oh well, it's kind of busy. You're sort of like getting thrown in the deep end. You're sort of like doing
Mm,
all these different things, trying to join as many societies. I think we even joked, not in this episode, a part of this series, but did an episode with a former guest, Jazz, and we were talking about
mm,
societies at Brunel. And I think
right.
one of the things that we mentioned there was that as a fresher, there's this like sense that you have to join like every society you see at Freshers
Yeah.
Fair. Like you're just walking past all their tables and like, oh hey, do you want to join? And you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no
I'm not
matter
going to.
how serious the society is, like there was a
Honestly.
Game of Thrones society when I was there, and I was like, "What?"
But it's the truth. Like, yeah, there's always this expectation that, like, yeah, you have to join as many societies as you want to make as many friends as you want. And like what you said, I think what usually happens is you just make a lot of acquaintances. Now, I think for me, with my undergraduate at least, I think the difference was that actually, to be honest, for my masters as well,
Mm,
both courses was the cohort was small. It was about 20 people for my
right.
undergraduate, and about maybe, actually, to be honest, like 15, maybe 20 who did my course. And then because we were joined up with another course, in total, maybe
Yeah.
like 35 or 40 of us. Um, so for both sort of groups, or both time periods, I sort of I knew of a lot of people, and especially with my undergraduate, I would say got along with basically almost everyone on my course, because there was so little of us that you sort of like would interact with at least one of them in some way, shape, or form. Um,
Which, yeah, can be beneficial, but
mm,
then also it means if there's so few of you, there's not really a big pool of people to, find
mm,
something you have in common with, What if
yeah.
everyone's from quite a specific background or into, everyone's into football and you're the only one that's not into football, and you can't really associate that. Or you don't drink alcohol,
Yeah.
It can be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think even like you said, the alcohol thing is definitely true, because in one of our, in the first episode actually of
Yeah.
this series, I think, we were talking about Layla was talking about how she came to the UK, and she was saying like one of the big differences, um, from like our home country was the drinking culture. Like in the UK, it's complete. And I know other podcasts, like whether they like Brunel related ones or other ones, just talk about like
Yeah.
there's a big difference in the drinking culture within the UK compared to like other countries. Uh,
Oh, yeah, you can say that again.
so yeah, I think that's definitely one thing. But I think like what you mentioned, I think for my masters though, I think so when I did my masters was
Yeah.
I started my masters in 2021.
Oh, great
So
year that was.
yeah, I know, honestly, perfect timing to do a masters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, especially because like a lot of the stuff was still very much online, and there was more of a focus on like stuff being hybrid than there is now. It was a lot harder in the sense of, because like most of the time, if a lecture was online, and especially if it was like I only had that one lecture for like an hour or 2 hours, I wouldn't go
Yeah.
to campus, because my argument would be, well, I'm literally just gonna go to campus. Like I don't live too far, but I was just like, I'm gonna go there and then stay for a 2 hour lecture and then go home. And I was just like, it doesn't make sense, both like time wise, but also like financially, to just be spending that much on transport if it's going to be done online. And I think that sort of like
Yeah.
dampened the sort of, like you said, about like making friends, because I was just like, well, okay, cool. For my masters, it's only like the academic part is only like a year. So I was like, I'm just gonna
I ain't
like,
here to make friends. I'll
yeah, I
just
was just like,
knuckle
let me
down
just
for
get it
it.
over and done with. But sort of links to the reality of it, which is whether you sort of, like we said, have that the mentality of
Mm.
you know of the masters, and you're just here to like get in, do your degree, and get out, or whether it's your undergraduate and you're sort of like just like, oh, it's easy. I'm a sociable person. I had loads of friends at school. I knew loads of people at school.
Bloody
Like,
butterflies.
yeah, honestly, you're like, oh, this is a walk in the park. The reality is, it can be quite nerve wracking to meet new people. And I think, like you said,
Yeah.
Morgan, especially if it's not, you know, like we sort of mentioned, you don't drink, or you're not into the similar interests. And that sort of
Yeah.
even goes a bit wider, for like accommodation, for example. So obviously, everyone's dream is to have accommodation with like their school friends, if they've got school friends that are going to the same university, or even if they don't have school friends who are going to the same university.
Just to have accommodation with their
Yeah.
mates, which again, I think, I hope that's another assumption coming up, because I'd love to talk about that, but go on.
If not, we can always add it. But yeah,
Nice.
I think that's the thing that like everyone sort of thinks, especially I never lived on campus, but I think one of the things that if I probably would have had the assumption is like, oh, I'm going to get along with like everyone in my flat. Like we're all going to be like
Yeah.
the closest friends, we're going to go
Mhm.
to, even if we're not part of the same societies, we're going to go to like, night events together. We're going to like have loads of, like if we're having parties, we're going to have parties. And it's just like, that's for some people. Yes, that can, well, I'd say in my experience, or from like friends friends who've lived on campus and things like that, I've never seen it that they've got along with everyone in their
Yeah, and
flat.
dude, I really second your opinion there, because I think that was an assumption of mine, is that, oh well, my friends will just be my flatmates because
Mm,
they're cool. We all like to party. We all like to drink. But it's just not necessarily true. And to be
mm,
honest, like, it doesn't relate to being a student. But as I've got on later in life, and all the flat shares I've lived in, I've never lived with my friends. And you know what? It's great
mm.
because they can be my friends, and I don't have to yell at them about doing the washing up, or they don't see my weird habits of like eating raw tomatoes by the packet. Sometimes it's better not to live with your friends
Mm,
because you don't have to deal with all that
mm.
crap, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that, like, literally, we had a episode about living on campus, and that was one of the things that we spoke about, that when you live on, like, whether you're living on campus or you live on
Mm.
accommodation, well, we were talking about that, if you're a second year, you're not guaranteed accommodation. So whether you're a second year, it
Yeah, you
usually
usually
like,
live off campus. Yeah.
yeah. And we were saying that, there's always the assumption that, oh, I'm gonna like rent out a house, or I'm gonna do like a flat share with like loads of friends. But there are, like we said, I think the difference is that if you do especially as a uni student, if you do a flat share, or like you're sharing a house with people that you might not necessarily be like they're not your friend going
Yeah.
into it, it's a lot easier, like you said, about things like, okay, where's your rent? Or like, we need your rent for the house. Like, come on,
Yeah,
let's
exactly. Just because you get on socially doesn't mean they're actually going to be a nice person to live with. Some
yeah.
people just haven't learned a lot of life skills before uni. And
Mm,
I'm not like judging people and stuff. They could come from tough backgrounds, that could have caused that, but they just don't know how to like clean up after
yep.
themselves. Like in one case, my brother told me a story. His flatmate chopped raw meat
Oh,
on the kitchen tabletop, like without a chopping board or anything. And it's because they were just so used to having, I guess they were. This is just the theory. Maybe they were just, all their meals were cooked for them back home or something, or they're just used to eating takeaway and eating out. But they just didn't know to use a chopping board. So you'd have all these like little, like in a chopping board, you have all
mm.
these little crevasses of just raw meat juice just clinging to the
Oh
countertop, and you
no.
couldn't properly clean it out. Yeah,
Oh,
that's it.
gosh.
Not everyone knows these things,
Mm,
and it's difficult to have a conversation with someone assertively, because if I saw someone do that, I'd freak out, I'd be like, "What the hell? What?" And if I did that to them, how are they going to react? They might get like quite reactive to that. To be like, just say quietly, dude, I know maybe you don't understand this, but we usually use a chopping board because it's more hygienic. Is that okay if you use a chopping board? That's a way better way of dealing with it. But to have those difficult conversations is really hard.
really
You got to live
hard.
with the right people, and it might even be difficult with your friends.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I think it's definitely the truth that it's hard to, when you're living with friends, to sort of get that, like, to be that, not like strict, but like you said, like to have the difficult conversations of like, okay, rent's coming up. Have you got rent? If not, why not? Like, we need the rent. You got to pay your share. Everyone's sort of chipping in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like we said, like those are the sort of things that sort of will come from it. But yeah, I think
Exactly.
whether
It's an assumption. It's not always fun and daisy, living
yeah,
with people.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think whether it's sort of to do with like making friends or even like we said, like the people that you live with, I think like the advice that I've got here is use freshers. I think whether you are like I said, you're an undergraduate student or postgraduate student, sorry, or PhD student, use Freshers Week as your opportunity to speak to people. Because whether it's like you're looking for someone, like I think especially people forget that sometimes especially if you're like a second, well, I think for the living thing, especially if you're a second year, there are a lot of second years that, I don't know, let's say they were bankering on like one person to do their flat share, and then like someone dropped out because they got accommodation on campus or they found better accommodation, or
that can happen. Yeah.
Or they realize, actually, what, I don't want to pay to live off campus. I'm just going to live from home instead because my second year is a lot easier. Or actually, I need to do a quick, like something's happened. I need to live at home at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, using opportunities like Freshers Week are really good to like speak to people, whether it's to make friends, whether it's to find people to live with, because it's a nice thing to know that a lot of people feel the same way you do. They'll feel nervous about like making friends or speaking to people.
Yeah, and it's good to be aware of that. Actually,
Yeah.
that everyone's just as nervous as you.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about this. The first assumption that it's easy to make friends. Well, I guess me and your perspective, it sounds like we came from sort of like quite open social butterflies, but people have anxiety issues, people have social anxiety, people have social anxiety disorders, or people are just introverted, or they're not good with like introductions and stuff, and it can be hard meeting people for the first time, especially if it's not like something you do well in. Like a friend of mine, really funny, hilarious, quite like, great for like engaging in conversation, asking how your day is, but only once she's got to know you. Like otherwise, when I've hung around with her and I've introduced her to new people, she's really quiet at first, quite introverted. And she just says she just really struggles thinking what's the first thing to say to someone new. She really struggles to like connect, and that can be an issue for people.
Yeah.
Making friends.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, like you said, like the thing is, like with Freshers Fair or Freshers Week, sorry, or even Refreshers Week now that's become a thing. Yeah, it's an opportunity where other people, like you said, like other people might be nervous about making friends, or other people are nervous about like, like starting, I don't know, like joining societies and things like that. And it's really nice because I think the difference with that to like, let's say secondary school, so to speak, is even like, because I know, like, for example, there was someone on my course, she joined our course in the second term of first year. So she didn't do any of the assignments we did in our first term, but she like just appeared out of the blue. And like she, like a lot of us, like again, it could just be because the course was small that it sort of all worked out, but it was really nice because a lot of people like got along with her because of like what we were saying. Like, it's still like if it was secondary school, or even like sixth form, the difficulty is there's already like cliques going into that. Like, there's people that know each other or know they're like friends of friends who got like said, oh, I know someone who's going to your school type thing. But with the university,
like uni, everyone's new pretty much. No one knows each other. Yeah,
and even with like
interesting moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even with like masters as well, like for me, like obviously I did my masters, or I did my undergrad at Brunel, I'm doing my masters there. So for my course, like there was only for the person who's doing the exact same course as me, there was only one person that I knew before. Like, I didn't even know she was doing it until like we did a lecture and I saw her and I was like, oh hey, didn't know you were doing my course.
Oh my god, it's you.
Exactly. But then the other, like, there was someone else who did my undergraduate, and like he was doing another course. But like we said, like even there, like most of the people who did my undergraduate did not do, or even if they did a master's, they didn't do it at Brunel, or they didn't do it at the same time as me. They didn't do the same course. So I think for me, that was the other thing as well, is that even if you stay at the same university, you're still, when you go into your master's, or even if you go do a PhD, you're sort of still thrown back into that like first year feeling, because everyone's sort of new.
And it goes that way a lot in life, you know. Like, I mean, for example, a lot of people are like international citizens in a way. Like, people did their undergrad in like the USA, did their postgrad in Paris, and then they're doing their PhD in South Africa, you know. You're always going to be thrown into situations where you're not going to know a lot of people or not know anyone at all. And in a way, it's a good learning experience. It can be quite tough, especially if you're going through stressful times. You don't have that friend network in the immediate vicinity, but it will teach you a lot of life skills of how to be independent. Like traveling solo, for example, it is kind of scary, but I'd highly recommend that to anyone, because you'll realize how confident and how well you can just manage yourself on holiday. Easy to do on holiday, I guarantee, but try doing a PhD in a country far away from home where you don't know anyone.
Yeah, definitely, man. I definitely agree. But yeah, let's go on to the next assumption.
Sure.
Which it sort of links to what we were talking about before, because this one's all about like there won't be a society that I like that I can sort of join to sort of make friends. So you'll get to university and you'll assume, you know, there's no society for me. There's like what we were saying, I think especially about like the course stuff, is that there's a lot of societies, like you might be on a course where a lot of people, like, I don't know, like we said, like interested in football, they're interested in
Game of Thrones,
is interested in like certain TV shows or video games or like going to the gym or whatever, and you might not fit into, like, you might not be interested in that at all. So you might be like, okay, societies is where I'm going to sort of like go and make friends. And then, you might be like, well, actually, there isn't a society there won't be a society that I like. So you might think, actually, you know, I went to a freshers fair and I saw some of the societies there. I didn't get to go to all the stands, but there wasn't one for me. So I'm not really going to make friends. But yeah, the assumption is very short, because obviously the reality of that is that's not the case. And the reality is that, imagine there's only like 5 societies at university, and if you don't like anyone,
there's going to be a lot of societies. I'm just thinking at Brunel, but you know, I didn't study at any other university. Perhaps other universities have less of a society culture. But even if there aren't societies for you, there are lots of other networks where you can meet people. Like universities generally have like a volunteering department where they organize students to be volunteers to go out and do stuff in the community or clean stuff on campus. Sometimes the best way to meet people is through those unofficial networks. You know, like it doesn't have to be like a formal society. I'm just trying to think of like other occasions where you might meet students that just doesn't fall under societies. But
I mean, a lot of groups do events. I mean, like not even like just university societies, or the universities in general,
like the academic societies.
Yeah, or sometimes there's like academic courses might do like events, or even like not even like to link to the university at all. Like sometimes there are organizations that their job is literally to like do events for young, like they specialize in doing events for young people. So like I know one example would be they're called the Gen Z Club. I've mentioned them like a few times.
Nice.
But yeah, they do a lot of like events for like young people. It's not even like targeted to, oh, you have to go to university. Like, no, if people want to, if like you're a young person and you want to learn. So I think they've got one coming up this month about like property management. And if you want to learn about property management and investment, like
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, then you can come along. If you want to learn, they've done stuff like they did like a women's only networking event. Like they do a lot of stuff for young people, which is nice because it's like a nice social setting.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way for you as a young person to like meet other people your age and not
Yeah.
sort of like what we said about like the societies. Like it's, I think, especially because I mean, yeah, I don't know about all of the events, but the one event that I did go to was like a paid one. But I guess the good thing about that is, if someone's paid to be there, then they're sort of like different to society, because there are society events, whether it's been ones that I've held, it's been ones that I've attended, that like people are just there because like it's an event. Like they're just like, I wanted to do
free food, free
yeah, exactly,
drinks.
free food, free drinks.
Yeah,
I just wanted to do
There's
something
definitely those
today.
people.
But the good thing with like some of these other ones where you might need to pay a bit is it sort of like filters it out, that you've got people who are actually like interested. Like if you're going to one about like a certain topic, there'll be people like interested about that topic there. So, if you're passionate about, I don't know, like gaming, and there's like a gaming like, I don't know, like networking event where you get to speak to people in the gaming industry.
Yeah, then that could, and if you have to pay, I remember that sort of something that held me back actually was, there's a price tag to these committees, isn't there? But if it's a small amount that's affordable, then it might be worth actually giving it a shot and trying, because then that can help actually. They'll set up some good events with that money. That means you can meet new people. Or you can just go get some free drinks and food, you get that money back in one way or another.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think
what societies, go on.
No, you go on.
What societies were you part of at Brunel?
Well, for my undergrad, I think like we mentioned before, I was going like a madman and going for every society that I saw. For the 4 years that I was there, and during the 3 years that I was studying, and then for my placement year, I was a part of the Nigerian Society, the Afro-Caribbean Society, the Athletic Society, what was the other ones? The Environmental Science Society, which I'm still on.
Nice.
There was the Wildlife and Conservation Society at Brunel when I started, so I was I was a member of that. I feel like that was. Let me see.
That's quite a hefty load.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Than I went for.
And then for my masters, yeah, like what you said, like I was just like, I'm only here for 2 years. I don't need to. Like I was just like, I've had my fair share of society. Well, I mean, also I was just like, the thing is as well, I'm like, because last year, when I was studying, like what I said, because a lot of the stuff was like, because of lockdowns and COVID, it meant it was a lot harder. Well, not a lot of events were happening. If they were online. And I was a bit like, well, I don't want to sit for like hours of lectures and then sort of spend an extra 2 hours like doing society stuff. So I didn't really do much in my first year, but yeah, now I've sort of reduced it to just the ones that I'm on the committee for. And then if there's like a society event and I'm on campus, I might just like pop through and be like, oh, hey, I'm not officially a member, but like I'm down to like go to the event and see what's going on. So the only two that I'm officially
free food and alcohol.
Yeah, free food and alcohol, can't complain. But yeah, so I'm a part of the Environmental Science Society and also the Entrepreneur Society. But yeah, to be honest, I feel like I feel like there's another one that I'm a part of, but honestly, like I those are the only two that I'm
giving shout outs to your favorite ones only.
Yeah, give a shout out. But yeah, what about you, Morgan? What societies are you part
of? So I was part of the History Society, Politics Society. I think that's it, really. I kind of just kept to those, to be honest. I wish in hindsight, I wish I joined more. Oh, sorry, totally forgot the Drama Society. That was a big one in my first year, actually. I really enjoyed the Drama Society. I'd highly recommend. Shout out to Drama Society. But, I think the important thing to mention is, assumptions people don't think there'll be a society for them. You don't know till you try. It's always good to try life. And there's plenty of free societies where if you don't like it, you can just dip out. And, academic societies, ones that link to your actual society are really good to get involved in, because generally they get some funding from the university to operate. So Politics and History Society, we actually ran some really good events where there were like, there was food, there was some drinks behind the bar, and there were actually ones where the university actually just paid for it all, which was fantastic, especially me being a committee member, because I certainly mooched some of that free food. Yeah, definitely would highly recommend going with your studies society or discipline society if there's one.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's even why so myself and like I think it was 3 of us or 4 of us, maybe. But that's why we even started the Environmental Science Society, because we were just like, hey, there's not a society.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we were just like, there's not a society for our course. Well, I mean, our course was literally like started the year we all came. So we were just like, there's definitely not a society for us. But we were just like, oh, it'd be really good to have one that's like, relevant to our studies, and it's like a support group for whether it's people who want to learn about the environment or it's for people who want support with like their academics, because we were just like, obviously, like we can't.
Yeah, that's good.
And we were just like, obviously we're not giving like coursework, like advice and stuff like that. We're not saying like we're experts and stuff, but we were just like, sometimes it's nice to just have like a space where you can like learn from like you can learn from other people,
peers,
and learn from your peers as well. Because it's just
exactly it. And this is great, because what you're basically saying here is, if you don't think there's a society for you, start one.
Exactly. Yeah. And we actually meant, again, to be honest, it'll probably be the most relevant episode for this, is we spoke about like the societies one at Brunel, and we said that if there's not a society or even a sports club for you, like getting like you can set one up. I think a lot of people feel like it's a lot more complicated than it is, but it's really not. You just literally need to have at least 10 people interested in the society, and then 3 of the people going for it have to be like, one has to be the chair, one has to be the treasurer, one has to be the secretary. But all you just need is like 10 people to set up, and then that's it. They'll just basically, there's a guild that basically reviews the Societies Guild, which reviews like all the societies available, like that exist, and says that if there's a new one, is there going to be like, is there one that already exists like it? If there is, then the argument is that unfortunately it won't go ahead because there's one that already exists like it. But if not, then they usually approve it. And then once you're sort of set up, you can then like have a page on the union website. You can like have a WhatsApp group. You can be at Freshers Fair. But there's a lot of like, there's a lot of like leeway with societies. And like we said, like the societies team at the union, like shout out to them, because they do a lot of work to help support, well, not only existing societies, but anyone who's like interested in starting one. They do a lot of really good work with them as well. But you sort of
they are very helpful now.
No, go ahead.
Well, they're just very helpful. Like they're also quite good for contacts as well. Just like with the Politics and History Society, they helped us get some like really big people come in to do talks. Like we had a North Korean defector come in, we had a Holocaust survivor come in, and we definitely couldn't have done that without the support of the what they call again, the societies.
Is it the Societies Guild? Or is it
the Societies Guild? That's it. I love how they call themselves a guild as well. Great name.
In that episode we sort of mentioned that it sounds like very medieval, like there's a like a medieval fanfare. Exactly. But no. Unfortunately, it's nothing like that. But like you said, they do a really lot of great work for, like I said, both for existing societies and anyone who wants to set up one. Which is why I guess, like we said, the reality is that there are loads of societies, there's loads of events, whether they're held on campus, whether they're held off campus, whether they're online, whether they're not, which allow students to meet new people, try new things. I think also, like what you were saying, Morgan, there's a lot that you don't. So with societies and sports club have two different things. So with sports clubs, you have like a paid membership you pay for the academic year. But what it means is,
and you need insurance.
But what it means is you can join like as many sports clubs as you want. Now, the thing with that is if you join like loads, you might need to buy like specialist equipment for that particular thing that isn't covered in your membership. But with societies, usually there's like you said, usually most societies are free, or like most societies won't say, oh, unless you're like a paying member, you can't attend the event. Um, so it's a nice way to like encourage society, like people to like, even if you're unsure of the society, to just come along and check out an event. We mentioned it many a times on different episodes under Pick Up the Mic that you don't have to be a particular member of a society to join it. So if you, like you were saying, Morgan, whether it's an academic one, you don't have to study the academic subject to be a part of the society. Whether it's a cultural one, you don't have to be from the cultural background. Whether it's even like a social one, you don't have to sort of like, be a part of like, love gaming so much that it's your like passion to be a part of it. Like there's a lot of societies.
Yeah, you could just be a Call of Duty fan.
Yeah. But yeah, no, a lot of them are very nice and they're very lenient. And they don't like I said, I've never had it that even if I'm not a member of society, if I'm like on campus and I see on Instagram that there's an event and I drop by, I've never had it that like someone said like, you're not a member, so you can't come. They're usually just like, oh hey, like thanks for coming.
You can't enter.
Exactly. Luckily, it's never been like that. They've always been like, oh thanks for coming. Like, oh, like, are you like, what do you study? They're very friendly, and then they might say like, oh, we do a lot of events. If you join the society as a member, you'll be like put in our group chat. We'll be able to email you about events, so you won't miss out. But yeah, I'd say, that's the reality, and it sort of links to the advice of, joining society group chats. You can follow society. Well, I'd say it's it's very rare to find a society that's not like that's a part of, well, whether it's Brunel or other universities, that isn't on either Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. But yeah, following societies.
Kids these days.
Yeah, honestly, man, the kids these days with social media. But yeah, even like the student union actually, which is really nice, at different universities, but also the one at Brunel, they share a lot of resources. Not resources, sorry. They share a lot of events that are happening, like if they get tagged about it. So sometimes they might share like, oh, don't know if you know, but there's a networking event today on campus between 3 and 5. So even just following the student union is a good way. And on the student union website, they also post about events, like societies can post about events directly there. So it can be added to the, like what's going on at the like what's going on this week at the university. So it's a nice way to like see what's going on and like what might be of interest to you.
That's quite handy. And sometimes you might just spontaneously come across an event like the Sikh Society. I don't know if they still do it, but when I was there, every year they did Langar, which is like a traditional event in Sikhism where they just basically cook loads of food and anyone can come sit down and eat. Like you don't have to hear anything about Sikhism if you don't want to. All you have to do is just take off your shoes and be respectful to some of their rules, and they'll just give you food. It's so lovely, and I would just spontaneously bump into that on the quad every year, and it's such a great event. You could just show up. You don't have to be part of the society.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think that's definitely the case. So I'd say check out all these different follow, make sure if there's any societies you're interested in, you're following them so you know about their events. But also I'd say definitely check out and follow like the union at your university, or like if you're a Brunel student, and like I've said before, this is mainly just talking about Brunel, then just make sure you follow the union and check out their website, because usually at the start, like at this point of recording, we're literally just about to start the summer term, so it's good to sort of like know what events are sort of like coming up within the term that might be of interest to you as well. But yeah, we've come to the last assumption, reality and advice there. So we're going to say with this one, it is, I guess we sort of talked about it, but we can dive into a bit more, which is basically like what we were saying at the start, like you'll get along with everyone. So whether they're in your accommodation, whether they're in they're in they're people on your course, whether they're, committee members, whether they're, I don't know, like people in the year above you, people in the year maybe below you, you're going to get along with everyone. It's going to be like sort of like a Hollywood film of like you're walking through your university. If you're a Brunel student, you're walking through like the main concord and like, you're going past all these buildings. Everyone's like, oh, hey, it's you. Like, they're giving you high fives.
Yeah, the cool kids. Oh, they
Exactly.
got denim jackets. They're all matching. Oh, yeah.
Honestly. And yeah, if you didn't know it before, the reality is that's not the case. That is definitely not the case.
Mm.
And the fact of the matter is whether it's your it can well, I put the reality is it can happen, but um I don't think it's true that you get along with everyone. It's definitely not something that's guaranteed at least. But yeah, Morgan, did you feel like this was something that you sort of felt like that, you would get along with everyone at university?
Yeah, I thought that was the case, that I would get on with everyone. Just because sort of like my mentality and my personality, I was always quite forgiving. I wouldn't really raise issues with people. And you know what? Good amount of therapy and um, life experience has made me realize it's not good to try and get on with everyone. The reality is, you're not going to get on with everyone in life. Um, there's people who may be a friend, but may not be a healthy person in your life, and you will need to tell them that. Or likewise, people will hurt you, or you might hurt others. You won't get on with everyone. That definitely applies with university as well. Like Freshers Week, living with people as well. Things will come up. There'll be issues. There'll be dramas. There'll be mental health problems. You'll have your own mental health problems. They'll have their own mental health problems, and that all cause friction. And it's kind of a good life lesson in that. That if you can navigate through adversity, there's so much character building in it. But if you avoid adversity and you just say, I want to get on with everyone, I'm not going to raise any issues, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, it's not good for you. It's not good for your
Mm.
mental health, and you won't progress as a person in certain areas. Thinking about my time at university, I don't think I had like any verbal falling out with anyone. If there's someone I just really didn't like, I just avoided them.
Mm.
But if I could go back in time, I definitely would have raised my voice and said something, because it's not good to stand by and let stuff happen to others, but also when it happens to yourself as well.
Mm.
I mean, what was your sort of experience? Did you get on with everyone?
Yeah, I think like you said, there wasn't necessarily like a verbal falling out or like people that I was just
Mm.
like, like we got into whether a physical fight or a verbal fight, and I was just like,
Fisticuffs on the
yeah,
court.
fisticuffs. But no, it was just, I think for me, like we said, like I'm a pretty easygoing guy.
Mm.
If I'm friends with you, then like I'll make the time, we'll talk, we'll
Yeah,
meet up, we'll like do stuff. And if I'm sort of like not friendly with you, then I sort of just won't.
avoid
Which
you.
yeah, which which I think for me, like what you said, I think there were times where looking back, I probably, like you said, like I wouldn't sort of feel like, oh, you need to get along with everyone, you need to do this, you need to
Mhm.
do that. Um, I would say, yeah, the most important thing for me would be just like we said, like it's I think even people have said it that like if someone even says like they've got so many friends, that's basically a lie. Um
Yeah.
just like the honest truth is you've got so many acquaintances,
Are they really your friends?
but are they really
Exactly.
your friends?
Better
Um
to have less friends, but deeper, stronger
mm,
relationships than just too many that aren't really your friends. You just
yeah.
don't have that depth.
Yeah, and even like people have said that the actual reality of life is you'll know you're sort of maturing, or like you'll know that you're sort of like getting, like you said, like in better in like more of a, I guess, mental well-being place, because you'll realize that you don't have as many friends as you are. Now, I'm not saying like if you're like the worst person ever and you treat people poorly, then that's clearly means that you're sort of like what you said, like it's because you're in a good mental space, like obviously no, but I think it's the saying that like if you if you're maturing, like what you said, you'll be saying like there'll be friends that you won't necessarily want to meet up with, or you won't, or acquaintances, I guess is better to say. But there'll be people that you won't necessarily want to meet up with, or you will stop talking with because you'll be like, well, actually, you know what, this person's actually pretty
a bad apple.
And I think one of the, it sounds kind of harsh to say, but I think whether it's to do because I think we even raised it in the sort of like dating at uni episode.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, no, that that one was interesting, and I think we probably will be doing more, maybe not necessarily, well, maybe on dating, but I think especially like one of the ones
we're going to cover a love interest podcast.
Yeah, we might even, who knows, we
love
might
is blind.
Might be able to convince Brunel to do like a Love Island Uxbridge.
Goodness me. Count me out.
But no, I think one of the things, even like with like relationships, and I guess it applies to friendship as well, is we were just saying in that one that like there will be times when you'll sort of realize that actually like what you thought you wanted isn't actually what you do want. And I think especially with friendships, you'll sort of feel like what I think a lot of people said, like everyone assumes that when you go to uni, like it's going to be like, you know, American movies, you're going to get along with everyone, you're going to sort of be like the talk of the town, you're going to be like well known,
denim jackets together.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like that's not the case. Like I mean, it's just not the case, and it's better. And I think especially like, I guess moving on to, I guess, the sort of like lessons learned is that you don't have to be friends with everyone, but I've said but do try to be friendly to everyone. So what that means is
be kind.
Like you don't need to, like if I meet someone new, I don't necessarily need to, you know, treat them poorly because I don't know them. Like and be like, you know what, they're never going to be my friend, so I'm going to instead like
a tough cookie to crack, mate.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just gonna not talk to them and then be super friendly with my friends. But yeah, it's just like you don't have to feel that everyone that you, like we said, whether you speak at Freshers Fair or you know they're part of your society and you see them in a lot of society events. You don't have to feel like you have to be friends with them, because then I think for me it sort of like sends the like the false narrative of like like what I said, you'll just end up with like we were saying before, like loads of acquaintances that you get along with and you're like super friendly with. But then it'll come to the time when you actually need like a friend and you'll be like, well, actually I don't have any, because none of the people that I'm, you know, that said they were my friend are my friend.
And also there's a sort of a key lesson in that, is that it's okay to say no. It's empowering to say no as well. If you said yes to everyone in life, you would be broke, you'd be hungover all the time, you'd probably be a drug addict. It's just not healthy to say yes to everything. Find empowerment in saying no, and don't be a people pleaser. You know, please maybe ones you're really close with, but remember to draw a line. You know, your welfare is so important, and it's okay to say no when someone asks you to hang out and you're like, I'm sorry, I just need some time alone tonight, or I want to do this instead, you know. I wish I knew that when I was at uni, because it's not that I said yes to everything, but you know, the fear of missing out, FOMO, wanting to be a people pleaser, being an overachiever as well, like in an academic sense, in a work sense. People burn out from saying yes to like work requests from their colleagues and their bosses. Saying no, I know it's a negative word, but no is maybe the most empowering words you can ever say. It's so important to, you know, when it comes to making friends and getting on with people in life and your own relationship with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like that's true. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with, as an individual, with you sort of like turning around and saying, no, I don't want to be involved in this, or I don't want to do this. Or, you know, like, I think, like you said, like, again, it sort of applies both to relationships, but also to friendships, that like, if someone can't understand that you can't meet up today, or like you said, like, or actually, you know, the person's really tired, they've had a busy day at work, or even like what I said, like you said, even like when it comes to your job, like if you turn around, your manager or like your head of department or whoever is just like, oh, I need you to do like all these tasks, and you turn around and you're just like, no, I can't do it because like this is my workload. If they can't understand that, then like I know in an ideal world, like quitting your job is, I mean, to be honest, I've always said that about like jobs that like I know sometimes people disagree with this, but I think especially
controversial.
Yeah, controversial. Here we go. About to get cancelled. But I think when it comes to jobs, well, whether it comes to jobs, relationships, friendships, you need to be like, I guess if it's relationships and friendships, you need to be with people that you actually enjoy spending time with. And you enjoy their presence. And for me, it's like you need to not like even when you're because like for example, like obviously, well, these guys know I've got brothers. I've got a brother and two sisters. So
I know you've got a brother. That's for sure.
But like even with that, like there are there times that my brother annoys me. Like I'm sure there are times when your brother annoys you. But it's one of those things where you enjoy you enjoy their presence. So even like when they're not like even when I don't know like you maybe had an argument or disagreement and then you sort of like fix things, you're still sort of like happy with it. Like they haven't asked you to do something that you know, the relationship hasn't gotten worse. It's only improved because I think that's one of the things.
Setting boundaries,
setting boundaries
to a healthy relationship. And romantically and just in terms of friends.
Yeah. And I think the thing is like even, like we said, whether it's romantically or with friends, like someone who like like we said, like who might in the moment be annoyed that you set a boundary, but afterwards will be like, actually, you know what? It's really powerful that you did. Those are the type of people that you want around you, because anyone who's just like, especially if it's like a boundary that makes sense. So if like you said, like, oh, I can't go out today because, you know, I'm super tired, or actually, you know what? Like I just feel really sort of drained or down. I don't really want to like go out and like party or do whatever. I just want to like chill at home, relax. Like I'm not in a like dangerous place. Like I just want to just like have a mental break from like social media and all of this. And like if someone's just like, no, like that's so bad, like how could you say that? Then that clearly shows that they're not someone that you should have in your life.
Toxic person maybe, or just has no respect for boundaries. And you know, when I hear someone tell me no, sometimes that encourages me to tell them no in the future about something similar. You know, it's kind of good to have friends who are ready to set boundaries for yourself, because then you feel like you can feel confident with setting boundaries for yourself with them in the future. You know, if you just keep saying yes to everything, then I don't know what kind of relationship that'd be. You probably end up like two bandits on the run from the law, just living life very chaotically.
Yeah, but I think it's true. And even like with the job stuff, like I guess the controversial thing I was going to say was that I feel like you have to, especially I feel like when you're younger, like I mentioned it before on the podcast on different episodes, but when you've just left, even when you're at university, I think more so when you're at university than when you graduate, you are at a place where there is a form of support with you that you can do, like, you know, you can, you know, start a business and sort of see where that goes. Or you can, you know, like, I don't know, like, as long as you've got
start a podcast.
Yeah, start a podcast. Hey. But yeah, I think that for me is like the stuff that I would say. And I feel like even when you graduate, when you're looking for jobs, like for me, I think one of the best things I learned while I was on placement was basically just like someone told me basically, if you don't like the like if you get to the office or you do the interview and you feel like there's a weird vibe, you don't, you know, people seem like they don't really enjoy it, or you go around the office and it seems like everyone's like putting on a fake smile and they're just like, oh yeah, I love my job, but actually you can see like they're drowning in work, or you know, or they're just like, oh yeah, boss around the corner, you know, can't speak bad about my job. Like I think the reality is there are people that, well, there's people that don't like their job, or there's people that don't like aspects of their job. It's very rare to find a job that you totally love. Even like what I said before on like in previous episodes, like about podcasting, like, do I love podcasting? Yes. But does it get annoying like editing it and hearing my voice back sometimes, or like hearing when I've, you know, made a mistake and I've had to like re-say something, or like hearing when I've actually said something completely wrong and then I'm actually just like, you know what, that doesn't make any sense what I just said then, and I'm gonna have to like leave it in because the episode wouldn't make any sense if I cut it out. And it's just like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. But I feel like if there's a job that whether it's mentally or physically,
Hmm.
it's just draining you all the time, and they're not supporting your mental health, they're not
Yeah, or
supporting
you
your
get
physical health.
burnout. Mm.
Um, then if you have the capacity to leave, like I understand as well, like financial situations, you might be sort of doing the job to support
Mm.
your family or support friends, but but yeah, especially if you're in a position where you're not, and you're just like, you're just at the job because you feel like you have to be there because it's great for your like, I don't know, like professional career or whatever. Like for me, I would never work for a company. I'd never even apply for a company that I feel like I don't agree with their values, and I feel like that
Mm.
is a hill that I'll stand on. There are people that disagree with me with that, but yeah, I just feel like the thing is, if you like, it's at the end of the day, it's you. So people can tell you like, oh, this company's great. It's got like big, they work with big names. It'll be really good for
Hmm.
you. But
Yeah.
then the thing is, at the end of the day, you're the one doing the work. So if you know that, like what we were saying here, if you know that like actually you wouldn't like to work in a job that's, you know, they say it's 7 hours, but actually you're working like 10 hours every day. You can't get your time back. You're spoken rudely to. People
Yeah.
don't really consider the work you do serious. In your office, they're like sort of like belittling you, or they're gossiping about
Hmm.
you, or it's like a toxic work environment. Then to me, I feel like there's no need for you to stay. Like just leave. There was a Reddit thread that I saw on Instagram, and it was talking about like what's something that was was really important before, and now basically just because of the way that certain people have acted has basically
Hmm.
become useless and is kind of irrelevant, or is now a joke. Basically, they were saying, one of the people there just said like job loyalty. And they were saying like people who feel like they have to, stay within a certain company or feel like they're loyal to a company.
Yeah.
And they said, before, companies would value, and I'm not saying like there aren't companies that do that today, but they were saying like before a lot more companies would value your time, your work. If you were
Hmm.
asked to work extra hours, you were told, okay, even if you do like 12, 12 hours in a set, like you're supposed to do 7, you did 12 today. Okay, you know what? You don't have to start early tomorrow. Or actually, you know what? Just have the morning off because you've done loads of hard work. There are even
Yeah.
some companies that are just like, you know what? You've worked, it's been a great year, you've done a huge amount of work. Here, you can have like an extra couple of days of annual leave. Or actually, you know what, we're gonna give you a bonus, but we're also gonna like boost up your salary and your annual leave. But he was saying the person,
No,
sorry, was
I
saying
wish.
yeah, honestly, you wish. But yeah, a lot of the person was saying like now, like a lot of companies just, that's not the case. They'll sort of like, it'll make it seem like, oh yeah, there's like a good reason to stay, but then they're not always giving you that. Which I know we weren't planning to talk about, like, oh, this episode wasn't
No,
about
no, that's
jobs.
fine. But I
But
think that lead on to a good subject you could do for a future one
mm,
about saying no and drawing a line in the sand about being a people pleaser, an
yeah.
overachiever, a FOMOer, or I can't remember what the fourth one was, but there's this really good book I read about
Okay.
just saying no socially and also at work as well.
Mm,
I totally agree with what you say there as well, that company loyalty isn't what it used to be.
mm,
Um, and regardless, you've got to take responsibility and look out for yourself. You're the most important person in the world, and you could put as much time into a company expecting something back, and maybe they might give you something back. Maybe they will give some too little back, or maybe they'll give nothing back.
mm.
You can't expect anything back. You've just got to take care of yourself at the end of the day, and take care of your family, take care of your mom, take care of your dad, take care of your brother, your sister, because these companies, they'll drop you the first chance they get. You
Honestly,
know,
man.
as
Honestly.
much as what they say on the surface, can't trust them. You've got to look out for yourself.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. And I feel like it's, people feel like that's not something that you can do. You can't just turn around and be
Mm.
like, I'm not, like, I can't be loyal to this company. Or like, saying, like you said, like even saying no to work things, is sort of wrong. It's sort of like
Hmm.
discouraged. It's not allowed. But no, like, like yeah, I think that was one of the things that my manager for actually for both my placements sort of like emphasized was that don't feel like you have to do work that, you know, either A, isn't in your job description, or B, like you feel like with the work that you're already expected to do, you can't do. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about my current job is that my deputy director has been very supportive on that, because he was saying like, hey, look, you know, like, I know you want to develop yourself. I know you want to like try new things. He knows about the pop, like pick up the mic, and he was like, you know, he's always asking about it, seeing how it's going. But he was like, hey, look, you know, the most important thing is that you don't put yourself in a position where like you're sort of like stretched too thin, because he said then you're sort of like, you know, you're putting in pick up the mic at risk, but more importantly, you're putting yourself at risk, or like, you know, even if you're doing stuff within like,
what's the Japanese word for death by work? I can't remember. There's a specific word in the Japanese language for a certain number of suicides every year that can just be attributed to the overworking culture that exists over there. And I bet maybe it's not to the same extent, or maybe we don't have a word for it, but that definitely exists here in the UK.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, look out for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I feel like we said, that a lot of people feel like they have to sort of like suffer for their job, but that's not the case. Like, just do your best. Don't worry about like sort of suffering and laboring for a job that might not necessarily treat you well. But also, I think more importantly, like, just remember that like there's like a plethora of like, for every company. I think even like you know, we did an episode actually about it for like job hunting for after graduation. But I think the most important thing to remember is there are a plethora of jobs available for whether you're a recent graduate, whether you're someone who's graduated ages ago and you want to actually leave your job. Like, there is such a wide variety of jobs available, and even if there aren't at that moment in time, there's a lot of like courses, some of them free, some of them you have to pay for, where you can learn new skills. You can like learn how to become a freelancer. You can learn to do like stuff part-time. Because
I feel camps as well.
Exactly. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like actually, you know, doing a sudden change in my career is something that I can't do, but it's actually not the case. Like, you can change your career, but you shouldn't feel like you have to like sacrifice. You shouldn't feel like you have to sacrifice yourself for whether it's your job, whether it's for relationships, friendships, whatever. Like, that's not the case. But
thanks, Jeffrey. That's very inspiring to hear. There's a lot of people out there who want to do a career change, and I think that's what they need to hear right now.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And all things must come to an end, and this is the end of today's episode.
You're just getting me emotional.
Well, I guess we'll keep the emotional bit coming, because I want to say thank you to you, Morgan, for coming on to the podcast today. And it's been really great to learn about, you know, I guess, I mean, we started off talking about like making friends at uni, but even going on to like talking about like, you know, work relationships, personal relationships. It's been really great. I think our audience will definitely appreciate learning some key tips for themselves to take on.
Not just stuff that applies to uni, but a lot of lessons there that apply outside of it as well. And, you know, and there's so many assumptions and ideas in our head of university, like, make friends easy. The first year doesn't mean anything. It's all going to be good times. That's so not true. You have like so many issues, like socially, mentally, financially, but that's not the stuff that comes out in university prospectuses. It's always kids in denim jackets sitting on grass looking like they've had a good time and they're not studying at all. There's a certain realities that you'll discover at uni, and I hope that listening to this podcast has helped some students come to terms with like their mental health at university.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things that we'll probably speak about in a future episode. Because we're sort of figuring out still what we're going to do next, or whether we're going to sort of shift it. Yeah, we'll figure out something and let you know as soon as we got it planned. But I think like you said, like this podcast is not to, like, we're not saying that, universities, don't like
don't go to university, it's terrible.
Yeah. No, we're here to say, like, you know, if you're interested in going to university, there's a lot of things that you don't know and you're sort of like not prepared for, and you'll go in, you know, to your first year, or even like maybe we did one on literally postgraduate studies and like going to do a master's, and we were saying, oh, you know, one of the things we talked about there was that everyone assumes that like, oh, well, my master's will never be as hard as like my final year university, and it's just like, wow, you must have been lied to, because it will.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, honestly, it will hit you harder than all 3 years of university, to be honest. And especially like if you've taken a break, you maybe had a gap year, or maybe you've sort of like you went and worked for a bit and then came back, it will hit you a lot harder. So yeah, I think like having this podcast is really nice because it's like an honest thing, and like I've always said, like not only for just this series or this podcast, but for all the other podcasts that we do, that none of the stuff we do is like paid. It's not like we're not paid to sort of say, oh, you know, like this university is great or these resources are really great. Like no, like we share stuff because we found it useful and we think it would help you. And if we think things are awful, then yeah, we're gonna get on the microphone and we're going to say, well, actually, this was actually completely rubbish and it sucked.
We'll pick a hill and stand on it.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you to you, our wonderful audience, for coming back to another episode. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to know when the next episode of whether it's So No One Told You or for any of our other podcasts, then please do click the notification bell so you don't miss it. And finally, if you're interested in receiving some perks as well as supporting the podcast, please do check out our Patreon page. I need to figure out when, but we will probably be announcing in the next coming weeks that we're actually going to give a giveaway, because we'll be giving like an Amazon voucher giveaway, because I need to just figure out when exactly this episode will be recorded. But I through sheer just planning and looking at the calendar, we're coming up to at least 50 episodes of the podcast that started it all, which was originally just called Pick Up the Mic. But 50? It's crazy. It's crazy to think.
Wow.
We're coming up to 50 episodes of now it's called The Student Guide. So we're gonna. Yeah, we're sort of still figuring out like what we're gonna do, but yeah, we're gonna. It's definitely gonna be a reminisce. We're gonna be looking back, looking at how over 3 years we've. Oh, sorry, wow, getting ahead of myself there. Over 2 years,
getting old, mate.
Yeah, we're getting a bit old. But yeah, over 2 years, how the podcast has changed. Talking about our favorite moments, our favorite podcast episodes across the board. How we found like expanding into other areas, things like that. But yeah, it's been great speaking to you guys. It's been great learning about new things that I didn't necessarily know about before. So yeah, catch us in the next episode when we do the exact same. We'll be learning some new tips, learning about a new area, but most importantly, we'll be giving you some advice on things that you didn't really know about. So that's a bye from us here.
Excellent.
Hope you have a great day. And yeah, finally, before we end it, if you want to see more of Morgan, check out the Two Maesters podcast. The link will be below. And
check me out.
And on I think it's on the right hand side, so hopefully I'm pointing in the right corner. But you'll be able to click there as well to see more about the Two Maesters, because they talk a lot about sci-fi and fantasy and the world of many different comic books, video games, the whole lot. So if you want to know more about Morgan, you want to hear more about his podcasting, you want to learn more about his podcasting style, then check out the Two Maesters podcast. The link will be it'll be in either over there or down in the description. But yeah, that's bye from us here. Hope you have a great day, and speak to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.